And hello and welcome to AleksTabletops Gaming Sandbox MTG Sets Study Session 132. This is Buddy, my name is Alex, and today we are finally restarting, or should I say continuing, MTG Sets Studies. So, again, although this is a gaming sandbox, we're not going to play today. It's more like an actual study part of the gaming sandbox. So I studied MTG Set Studies for quite a lot. I mean, we had a lot of sessions. Let me go through how exactly. Again, you can find all MTG Set Study sessions, previous sessions that we streamed before. At that time, we streamed them on YouTube, on Twitch. Now they're going to be on YouTube, of course. As all AleksTabletops gaming content. So yeah, we had about like 36 sessions of studying sets. Because I studied them on Twitch, there were a lot of times that I basically decided to stop streaming them and try to go and work on studying those sets outside of the stream, because this is not something that people usually want to watch. Like some weird guy just basically studying sets for a weird purpose. So it was quite weird at the beginning, but since now we are on YouTube, I decided to bring them back and actually not going to close them anymore. So there are going to be until we're going to finish studying sets. So because before that I decided to remove MTG Set Studies for a lot of reasons, but most of those reasons were it didn't got any audience, so like it wasn't consistent. Like no one actually watched me study those things. And since now on YouTube we don't have any audience regardless, and it's not necessarily important for me to become a successful streamer on YouTube. This is a thing for me kind of on Twitch, but on YouTube it's not necessarily the goal. It's going to be kind of a little bit more casual. Again, lately we entered an MTG Study a casual mode, and this is kind of continues this casual mode. So now I'm going to study things the way that I want to study things, not being pressured by the lack of audience or the opposite, the existence of audience. So from now on I'm going to make decisions what to study, how to study, the way that I probably should do right from the beginning. But at some point I basically got confused. Like I mean if you streaming something and it's not getting successful, you usually stop streaming this. But again, I have a little bit much bigger plans on this than just a instant success, an instant gratification from streams or whatever. And because of this, I just basically decided to kind of convince myself that okay, we have to study those sets regardless. Like even if we're not going to, even if no one is going to watch us, we're still going to study them, because this is the way to. This is the thing that I planned a lot of years ago, and now we need to do this regardless. So if we will have audience, if we're not going to have audience, it truly doesn't matter. We're still going to study them. Because in the end it will help us to create our own stuff, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, so we throughout MTG Set Studies, as a quick recap, what we did so far, we basically studied all casual sets, which was kind of logical. We started with casual sets, we went through studying, by the way, let's check the sound, continue, all works. Yeah, so we studied all casual sets. We actually started with unstable, unglued, and unhinged, or the opposite: unstable, unglued, and unhinged. Starting from unglued, then going into unhinged, and finishing with unstable. These sets actually set a pretty good ground for base intellectual map. So most of the abilities that we established in intellectual map was described right here. So how it basically works, we opening a set, we reading a card's ability, and we're trying to find a way to generalize the ability to basically fit any type of tabletop game, not only Magic the Gathering. So like try to design it outside, like redesign it outside of the Magic. Or at least trying to think how this ability could work outside of Magic. To inspire us to create something on our own, of course. not necessarily rip it off right away, because it's a plagiarism. It's not a good thing. So in most cases, we're going to do the same as we did before. We're going to take all these sets, we're going to study them. Once we will study set by set, again, we studied all unsets, then we studied casual sets. In casual sets, we studied Archenemy, Plain Chase, Explorers of Ixalan, kind of separated two different types of magic: free-for-all magic, like a multiplayer, which has certain rules, different from one-to-one play, and two-handed giant play. Draft, which is, again, looks like a separate thing. Conspiracy, which I believe one of the most complex formats, or not necessarily formats, but sets and formats. It actually has like the integrated draft inside of it, and at the same time it has lots of awesome stuff. So Conspiracy is by far one of the most complex. Commander, which basically kind of similar to a Singleton, but a little bit different, but still. Brawl, which is again pretty close to Singleton, but focused a little bit more again along standard. Vanguard, we didn't get that much from the Vanguard because we took only something that regular Magic doesn't have: certain abilities and mechanics. Global Series, again, not that many things. It's more like a specific thing written and painted for a specific part of the globe. And Battle Bond, which was kind of just, again, separate set. So basically we went through all of those, and we started to study a vintage set. So we finished with casual sets, with onsets, and now we actually studying vintage sets. In vintage sets, we started to study Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited. We went through them, Arabian Nights, and basically we ended MTG Set studies on Arabian Nights. And now we're basically continuing from the next set, which is an Antiquities. So basically we studied everything right here with casual supplements, worked something outside of the casual supplements, of course, unstable, glued, or all unsets, bound. Again, we're not studying card by card. We're more like reading cards and trying to remember if we had a certain abilities, or this card has a potential to add something to our intellectual map. So this is the way that we're going to study. So we're going to read cards. So let's just open Antiquities. We're going to open a cards library, which usually not that hard thing to do. Just basically press all cards, or if it's not going to work, okay, the gatherer changed? No, it was just loading. So then we're setting a zoom probably 200 to make sure that we're going to see things right. Probably even more until we're going to see all of it. 250. Yep, 250 works. And we're basically reading each card and trying to analyze, like, we're looking at how many cards this set has, of course. This set has 85. Ideally, it has 100. I don't know why we see it on the 85. Maybe a couple of those were banned or whatever. So either way, we basically reading card by card, and we're trying to see if we already covered this ability and mechanic or not. If it seems familiar, that means that we already have it, and we're not going to add it into our intellectual map. If it seems new, if it seems like it has some type of a potential to be turned into something better and greater, we actually creating a separate kind of we adding a separate description of this ability, either in its actual state, if it's not confusing, if it already looks general, or trying to generalize it to the point of that it's going to fit to all games, not only to Magic. So we will start to do this, and you will understand what we're doing a little bit more once we will progress. So the whole idea is, again, to study all sets, learn what Magical is capable of, learn almost everything that Magic is capable of, in order to then try to understand Magic a little bit better on a deeper level. Because again, if you wanted to become a tabletop game creator of some kind, you have to learn from the best, and I believe Magic is one of the best, not one of the best, but actually the best game of that caliber. It actually helps you, like, throughout the years, throughout more than 20 years history, we saw so many things in Magic that basically studying it right from the beginning seems like a good idea, to actually look through almost all potential directions and possibilities that Magic tried throughout the years, and try to capitalize on those that Magic didn't realize or tried to implement and they didn't work, and etc. So basically, use all this information that is existent, that is present, to make something on your own. And not necessarily, again, not use it in a direct way, but actually use it as inspiration to create something your own. Again, this is the way that we will try to work with it within this information. Yeah. By the way, before that, I didn't understand what anti means. Now I understand what anti means a little bit more. So remove a jeweled bird from your deck before playing if you are not playing for an anti. Tap anti burn the bird. If you do, put all other cards you own from the anti into your graveyard, then draw a card. Still don't understand how it works in this particular situation. So I know, like, the phrase, again, English is my second language, or should I say not native language, and because of this I not necessarily understand how anti portrays in this particular situation. Like, I know that we can up the ante, this is the phrase, basically make sure that we will raise the stakes. So basically this is the opposite transition, like the similar transition to up the ante. So basically we will raise the stakes. Not the stake, the stakes. Raise the stakes, basically. But in this particular instance, I don't necessarily understand what is anti means, because it kind of works a little bit different each time. So for instance, if you're not playing for anti, like if you don't have any stakes in the game, I don't know. So it's a weird thing still. We will get to it the more we will understand Magic, I believe. So yeah, let's just continue, start this, with our first card from the Antiquities. Let's just go, and yeah, it's going to be quite not much super awesome, because like I have a YouTube thing in order to see chat opened, and I need to constantly kind of choose YouTube thing or the thing, YouTube thing or the thing, so it's going to be quite annoying to do so. Before that it was just one click. It's more clicks, doesn't matter. So yeah, let's just start. So Amulet of Krug. So this is an artifact. Pay 2 mana, tap it, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to any target this turn. We already covered almost all damage preventers. We actually created a separate category for damage preventers. It doesn't matter how much damage you actually will prevent. We already covered damage prevention. The only thing that we probably didn't cover from damage prevention is the specification of what exactly the type of damage we're actually going to prevent. So in this particular instance, we have a prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt by any target this turn. So that means that no matter what the target and no matter where exactly this damage is going to be dealt, 1 damage from those damages will be covered, prevented. We also have a combat damage, which will be able to prevent only in the combat stage. We also have just prevent the damage, like overall damage, no matter what this damage is going to be. And so there's a lot of kind of things when it comes down to the damage. So let's just find if we actually specified something in damage. We also have 3 separate tabs for MTG Study. So they actually undergo quite a bit of changes. Before that we had only 2 of them, MTG Sets Studies, MTG Study and MTG Study like this. Right here, it was more like a draft thing. So basically, after we will study all those mechanics, we will try to then draft each mechanic and try to create a separate place for each mechanic, as we did right here. So basically, choice-based mechanics, condition-based mechanics, we basically will try to create our own categories for them. Choice between based mechanics, rules based mechanics, control based mechanics, name, text based mechanics, price, balance based mechanics, and etc. Cumulative based mechanics, and etc. So it was going to be our first draft. We kind of started it, but then I decided, no, we started it too early. Let's just work with draft after we will finish studying all sets. That way we will have a little bit more information to work with, and it's going to be a step-by-step process and not just chaotic. Studied one set, going into the draft, studying another set, going into the draft. It just seems too confusing. It's better to basically finish studying sets first, which is now a separate tab for us. So we also have modern sets, which personally I end on journey into the next. The reason why modern sets for me, it doesn't mean the format, it doesn't mean the modern format. What it means is the modern format ended before Magic changed the design for cards. Magic 2015 was the first set that design for the cards changed, and starting from this set, design for the cards actually kind of changed. Magic Origins actually changed the complete direction of Magic. We could argue that 15, kind of Tarkir, Fate Reforged, and Dragon of Tarkir actually fits more to the modern, but we'll think about that. But basically, from now on, contemporary sets are the sets that actually starting either from 15 or from Magic Origins and leading up to the last sets. By the way, after M19, of course, we now have Ravnica, which we have to add a little bit later. But since we're not working on those sets yet, let's just do it later. So, modern sets, and for now we're working with a vintage sets. So again, step by step, slowly but surely, we're going to do this. So in terms of the schedule, before we'll start work with the schedule. In terms of the schedule, I already talked about it on MTG Study sessions. We're going to maintain for now schedule that way. So there's going to be a 1 week of MTG play study when we're going to play Magic Arena on Tuesdays, and we're going in English, and we're going to play Magic Arena on Fridays in Russian. So that way we basically have 1 week of play study Magic, playing Magic Arena, and then the other week, the next week, is going to be MTG Set studies. Then we're going to get back to a MTG play study week where we're going to play Arena, and then we will bring back MTG Set study. So each week, each 2 weeks, they're going to change. So this is going to be a schedule which we will start from March. This February, the schedule is not going to work yet. We're kind of adjusting to YouTube still. So because of this, 2 weeks before starting from the February, end of January and the beginning of the February, we streamed for 2 weeks MTG Study, where we just played Magic Arena, and now this week, this Tuesday, this Friday, next Tuesday, and next Friday, for this month only, we're going to study MTG Set studies, and we will bring back MTG Arena studies only. No, something weird with the speed. And we will bring back MTG Arena studies only at the beginning of March. To be exact, no, not here. To be exact, probably right here. So yeah, probably from here. So 5th, Tuesday, March 5th, and Friday, March 8th, we're going to bring back MTG. No, actually earlier. So today is from 12 to 13. Basically Tuesday. Friday we'll be streaming MTG Study, 19th MTG Study, MTG Set Study, MTG Set Study, 22nd. From 26th and 1st of March, we're actually bringing back MTG Arena Studies. Then, and from now, from that point on, we will study them with the difference in 2 weeks. So again, 1 week we're studying MTG Arena. Next week, studying MTG Set studies. And it will continue the same way. MTG Arena, MTG Set studies, MTG Arena, MTG Set studies week. So this way we're going to make sure that we're going to play Magic enough, but not overplayed. And at the same time study Magic, which is the whole point of MTG Study, to study Magic, not just play. Because again, I started to notice that me just playing Magic not necessarily works. It's not something that brings me that type of a joy as actually studying it, because I'm more like a theoretical person. I like to learn things from the actual study, not through the practicing things of study. And I understand information a little bit more that way when I'm working with information directly. And when we play studying things, it's indirect learning through the practice, when you're basically just playing things and learning intuitively. For me, it's just too slow of a progression. I don't believe that I learned that much from Magic by playing it the whole year when I streamed. I learned actually more from Magic by studying it that way. So it's just a personal kind of way of doing things. So let's just continue. So again, working with prevent damage. So we need to try to find a prevent damage in here. Also, besides drafts, we also in this tab of intellectual map, besides the draft, we also have a pretty two big categories for the mechanics, frequently used mechanics without the name. So these mechanics are used pretty frequently throughout the Magic history, but they don't necessarily have names. So for instance, damage prevention, this is not a mechanic. This is just a thing that Magic used throughout the years. And all those type of mechanics we're actually putting in here without the name. And every mechanic that has a name, such as like Morph, Megamorph, First Strike, like Radiance, Regenerate, Exploit, etc. Those mechanics are mechanics that actually was present, so the actual mechanics with a name. And that way we basically have decisions. If we have something familiar that fits to our frequently used mechanics and mechanics with the name, then we're adding them into all around mechanics and abilities. If they don't fit this category, we actually just adding them into a specific set category for now here until they will undergo a draft. Once they will undergo draft, we will try to make from them something solid, like one big mechanic. So hopefully I explained how we're going to study it, kind of. They will because again, if it's still not clear, sorry for that, I tried, but again, for me it has a lot of sense. If I didn't manage to explain it that well, sorry, I will try a little bit later. But again, since we we don't have audience regardless, and I doubt that someone is going to watch it, I'm recording this and streaming this more like for having a time capsule of me studying those things, because I want to create some type of an integrity for myself personally, like that I, as a tabletop game creator in the future, as a hobby of course, but still, I want to make sure that people will know that I did all those things, so that I just didn't decide to create games out of nowhere. I have the credibility, I study it, I truly analyze those mechanics, and there is a how to properly say it, evidence of me doing it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. I'm streaming those things to basically create some type of an evidence that I prepared for creating my own stuff. I didn't just decided to do this out of nowhere. I was inspired by Magic, and then I decided to study Magic in a full length, which is exactly what we're doing. So let's just continue. I'm actually having lots of fun doing this. It might not be entertaining to watch, but I can't explain how much fun I'm getting from it. So let's just try to find the prevention damage. So yeah, we have a prevent all combat damage thing. So cool. We have prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to N2 and dealt by a creature. Yes, we have a specification that combat could be replaced by any damage by a specific type of creature or color. Yeah, that means that we actually covered it. So that means that we covered, yeah, we covered this part. The part that basically tells us that prevent the next one damage. The only thing that we didn't specify and is how much damage. So let's just add the specification. It doesn't matter by who, by whom. It matters. Also, I changed the mouse from the last time that I worked with it, so I will need to undergo some getting used to things. So prevent all damage, and also specification on how much damage. How much damage will be prevented. So this is kind of important too. And as an example, we have prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt. It could be any number though. So next, let's just call it X damage. Prevent the next X damage. So we could specify not only by whom this damage and when this damage is going to be dealt. Common damage is specific creature damage, specific color creature damage, or color card damage. We also can specify how much damage is going to be dealt. So basically establish an X element to it, like prevent the next X damage. It's going to be, so we could prevent 5 damage, 3 damage, the next 5, the next 12 damage, or etc. Cool. Okay. Don't want to save too much, because one of the problems that I encountered throughout the MTGs, throughout working with mind maps, the more you save, the more file size basically grows. So, and then you have to kind of resave this with in a new format in order to basically clear all previous saves history that actually ties to this file. So because of this, I try to not to save too much, but at the same time, frequent saves will maintain all this information kept, because it's going to be much harder to restudy it all over again, because there's so many moves and so many. Okay, the first one. So we will start slow, because again, I still need to get used to MTG Study part of it, MTG Sets Study, because again, the last time we studied, by the way, this is something that I wanted to watch. Let's just see when the last time we actually studied. Well, I actually want to see when the last time, in terms of the date, because it was quite a bit, like at least maybe at least like 6 months ago, the last time that we probably studied MTG Study, MTG Set Study. I just want to make sure that I have the time frames. So last episode we studied Vintage Sets Study Arabian Nights. It was session 117, and this session was recorded or uploaded November 11, 2018. Actually, it's not that long ago. I mean, yep, like January, December, November 11. Yeah, it's not that long ago, actually. I thought that it was much long ago. Cool. But still, I have to get used to it, because I kind of forgot how it's done. I need to set my mind into a studying mode, not into a playing mode. I said before that studying things and playing things, it's not the same thing. Although when I'm playing, I still have an intention to study. I'm more focused on reacting, and right here I'm focused on actually analyzing things a little bit deeper and applying it to overall rules of Magic. When there, I'm just dealing with certain situations that I have to deal with in order to survive right now. So it's a little bit different approach. So yeah, we covered that one. The fact that we need to pay a certain amount of mana and tap things we already have, it's not that big of a deal. Specified the any target, and we added the fact that we could prevent a certain amount of damage. So cool. So next card, we're not going to focus on names. We're not going to remember the names either. Either way, it's just doesn't seem important and relevant to read names. Although it could be a good idea because R&Ds are usually naming cards a specific way to fit the creature and to fit the ability. We will start to look at names a little bit later, maybe when we will finish with vintage sets, because staying in vintage sets and keeping track of the names is just too much. So yeah, so Human Artificer is just a regular creature 1/1 that you can tap for 2 white mana. Paying 2 mana, tapping it, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so we already talked about returning things. I don't remember if we actually specified a return where exactly. So let's just try to... So, return card from the graveyard to your hand. This is a certain ability. Soul Shift, you may return target split card with current mana cost or less from your graveyard to your hand. In most cases, we're returning things from graveyard into our hand, but certain abilities such as Undying returns this card into the battlefield under its owner's control. So ideally, we kind of already covered those things in a separate categories, but we don't have a specific returning ability yet, I believe. So we have Unearth, which is kind of the same, return into the battlefield, but again, it's a specific mechanic. Persist, return to the battlefield. Choose target creature with a counter on it, then that creature dies this turn, return this card into its owner's hand. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Yeah, here it is. So frequently used abilities. So because bouncers are pretty important cards, but in this particular instance we're not necessarily using a bouncer. Returning target permanent to its owner's hand, and also let's just create slight variations for it. So so we have hand, we have the ability to do exactly that. So by hand, let's just establish that could be replaced with any type of zone, such as battlefield, library, and etc. So there's a lot of zones, exiles, etc. Just not going to specify battlefield. So again, just to understand that we can return things not only into our hand, but actually to any type of zone. So this is something that needs to be specified. So again, you see how we did. So how we did this, we already had the ability of returning, and I remember it. And we got a new information about returning that specified the fact that we have to kind of from the graveyard to your hand. So we actually, which means that we have 2 specifications, from where to where. it's actually already implied that since we're returning it to its owner's hands, that means that it's already on the battlefield, it's already in play. But I believe we need to specify it just for the sake of adding in additional information. So return target permanent from the battlefield. What's happening with the text? To the battlefield, from the battlefield to its owner's hand. Which means that we will specify battlefield 2, and battlefield could be replaced by any zone 2. Yeah, so battlefield could be replaced by any type of zone, such as hand, library, and etc. So basically, we have a zone that card is returned from, and we have a zone that card is returned to, which kind of separates those things a little bit. So zone that card is returned to. So of course the first one has to be a zone that we're returning it from, and the second zone is always going to be the zone that it will return to. Come on, man. Really? Okay, cool. From the battlefield to the hand. Cool. So yeah, as simple as that. So just almost everything that we're doing is based on a certain specification. So we're not just looking at this ability and assuming how it works. I mean, it's pretty clear how it works, and it's pretty understandable how it works. But sometimes we need to add those certain specifications to make sure that we will get everything that we can from this ability in terms of how it works. So for instance, another one is to target a specific card. Which is something that we'll probably have to establish too. So return target permanent. It's not necessarily could be permanent. So target card can be any type of card. Let's just make sure that the permanent just as an example, because we all know who plays Magic what permanent card is. This is a card that basically not an instant and not a sorcery, something that you actually can put in a battlefield and it stays there as a permanent, not just casts itself and then as a spell and then removes itself into a disposable zone such as exile or graveyard. Return target permanent from, so again, targeting a certain permanent. This is the first thing. Second thing is the specified from where exactly, and specified to where exactly. Also, we could kind of specify who owns the card, which actually quite interesting because we could create a specific variation based on not from actually where we're taking this card, but actually determining the owner of this card, because owner of the card is usually has that much of an importance as the zone that this thing is placed on. And yeah, owner. And just set the owner to, because owner aspect is going to be important. Target player. could be anyone. Which is actually interesting. Let's just give you an example how exactly it could work. So, owner, like targeting a specific player, could be interesting if we will, for instance, will create a mechanic that will force to return this card of one owner to the other owner. So basically switching the owners could be a unique twist to this ability that could work. So for instance, when someone tries to return card that I own, ability could read that it doesn't return back to its owner, instead it returns back to someone else, and owner decides to whom exactly this card will be returned to. So this kind of a small element will matter a lot. I mean, like, can you imagine how many variations you can create from one ability by just having a certain separate elements, like such as owner, permanent, zone that cards returns to, zone that cards returns from, an owner of this card, and basically switching those owners, etc. So you see, my mind is already basically working towards creating unique abilities, which is pretty cool. This is exactly why we're studying it, to basically create this inspiration, create this interesting effect. Okay, cool. So we still didn't establish anything new though. I mean, for now, working within already existing abilities. So I guess that's it. This is everything that we took from it. We could work the same with like preventing damage. We could prevent a specific damage from a specific target to a specific target, but I believe we already covered most of it. We don't have that much of a freedom right here, because the only thing that it does is prevents the damage, and how much damage it prevents, and from whom this damage will be prevented. From who? Hopefully I'm not overusing whom. I still don't understand exactly where exactly you have to properly say who and whom. It's more like comes to me intuitively sometimes. Again, not native language, sorry. I believe even native speakers not always use whom and who properly. Like, this is one of those instances. It comes down to the object or the subject. Like, if who is the subject, or then it's probably who, and if it's an object that is if it's a subject that is whom, and it's an object that is whom, it doesn't matter. So yeah, prevent next to damage that would be dealt to target artifact creature this turn. I don't believe that we need to specify this turn. I mean, of course, like, it's something that comes down from the balance. I mean, or becomes illogical from the balance standpoint. If you have a damage preventer card, that means that this damage preventer card is going to work within a specific period. It's not going to work like all the time. So you can prevent damage like on 2 turns, on 1 turn. Maybe it's a good idea to actually specify it, because before that we didn't necessarily talked about like each ability, but now I kind of want to break it down, those abilities, a little bit better. And even though we will sit on one ability for a lot of time, if it's a general ability, why not? Okay, we lost it. Don't remember where is it. Prevent damage, owner here. No, it's permanent. Preventing damage. I'll try to find it. There's a lot of text here. Yep, here it is. Prevent all combat damage by a creature. Let's just establish that this turn. So this turn could be, again, anything. It could be on 1 turn, it could be on 2 turns, on next 2 turns, and etc. This specification actually is quite important if you think about it. This turn, for how long or when. So yeah, so basically another kind of addition to it, for how long or when. So when damage exactly is going to be prevented, does damage is going to be prevented right away after we're going to cast the spell, so an instant effect, or it's going to be a cumulative effect, which will work a little bit like in after 2 turns, or the next turn after the previous turn, or within a certain action. So which means that when someone is doing something, damage is prevented. So for instance, prevent damage from creatures only. Prevent damage, so for instance, like creature could be immune to damage outside of the combat phase. We already have those cards. So this is all works with this type of thing, for how long or when. So when this damage is going to be prevented. Okay. Cool. Continue. Yeah, it's going to be quite slow again, but again, we don't have that many cards, and we're just starting. I'm just starting to put my brain into this type of thinking again. Once I will get used to it, we will go through these abilities a little bit quicker. But for now, there's nowhere to rush. We have 2 weeks to actually set our mind to end MTG Sets studies, and then I will adapt how quick we will go or how slow our speed of studying those things. So, okay. Also, I just noticed that I forgot to change Twitter notification, because ideally on Twitter notification for AleksTabletops we have to see this guy and not this guy. So we're still seeing Tony there, but we actually have to see Barney there. I completely forgot to change it, and I noticed it right like just now before starting streaming, but of course it was too late to change it. I will work on it. I will change this. It's not that big of a deal, but it would be awesome, since now we're streaming on YouTube, actually completely transition into a YouTube character, because we have a certain YouTube character, Batty, that actually ties to YouTube. He present on AleksKidX YouTube channel and AleksTabletops YouTube channel on both streaming platforms as a part of the sandbox thing. So, and not only in the sandbox actually, it's more like there he as a YouTube special, on YouTube specials only, and here he's everywhere, on streams and on YouTube specials. Continuing. So when this card can be blocked by artifact creatures, we already established the limitations of blocking, not going to add this one, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to it by artifacts creatures. Again, we already covered kind of the type of damage that could be prevented. The only specification right here in terms of the damage prevention, by the way, there's a lot of cards with damage prevention here. The only thing about damage prevention in this card, kind of not necessarily confuses me, but makes me think, is specification to what exact creature damage is going to be prevented. Not from what type of creature, but yeah, the specification. Let's see. To and dealt by. Yeah, we actually kind of specified to and by. Yeah, both elements were specified in this. To and by. Let's just separate those into separate categories. To what target? And by what target? So again, this tells us what exact target is going to have to deal damage to us in order for this damage to be prevented. and this card tells us, this 2 tells us to what card will exactly damage will be prevented. So basically, I guess it's clear. I'm not going to explain it. Okay, continuing. So prevent all damage that would be dealt to by artifact sources. Again, just specifies as a source, specifies as a target, and by which damage is going to be dealt, and to which damage, to which target damage is going to be dealt. Clear? Continuing. At the beginning of your upkeep, like this type of cards, put a Doom counter on Armageddon Clock. At the beginning of your draw step, Armageddon Clock deals damage equal to the number of Doom counters on it to each player. Remove a Doom counter from it. Any player may activate this ability, but only during your upkeep step. This is interesting. So this card is quite complex. Again, the more text we have, the more actions and reactions we have, the harder is to make this ability kind of something and make it coherent and clear. We'll try to do so, but let's think. We're also going to end the session for in about 30 minutes or so. Again, I'm probably not going to make those streams big, because lately I want to make sure that we're going to stream games less. And although this is a study session, who knows, we might actually stream another hour. We'll see. It depends on my overall feeling. So at the beginning of your upkeep, put a Doom counter on Armageddon Clock. We already talked about those type of abilities. They're quite simple. They are cumulative. They are turn-based abilities. They will start activation during a certain upkeep, or during your beginning stage of your turn, or the end, a part of your turn, or in the middle, or combat phase, etc. We covered this type of thing. We also covered that there is a way to put a lot of counters on certain type of permanents, and then there is a way to remove those counters and perform a certain action, in-game action, or activate certain in-game ability using those counters. So because of this, in general, I believe this covers it. I mean, at the beginning of your upkeep, you will put a counter. Then, at the beginning of your draw step, it automatically deals damage equal to the number of Doom counters to each player, which is, again, a lot of things here, but I believe we already covered it. I mean, it targets not only... Basically, it targets each player, which means that it's massive. It's not specified by a certain target player. So, yeah. And based on the number of the Doom counters, it just basically makes those counters work. I don't believe that we need this one. But then, we will be able, each player could remove a Doom counter from Armageddon Clock, but only during any upkeep step. Which is, again, just a super specified way to control this. Again, this is just a way of balancing it, because it's going to put counters at the beginning of each upkeep, and no one is going to stop this one until this card is going to be removed from the game. If you don't have that many artifact removals, that means that you have to balance it some way, and adding a way to remove those counters and making sure that everyone can remove those counters. It's actually quite a good way to balance it. But I don't believe that we have anything new here. I mean, yeah, it's quite complicated ability, but in most cases it's quite simple. We have 2 upkeeps. Basically two steps in which this thing activates itself, triggers, I would say. And we have an activated ability that we can use during, again, a specific upkeep step, specific step. And that's it. So the only thing that I believe we could take from this card is the fact that any player may activate this ability, which I still believe I already created. So let's just see. Do we have something similar or not? Because I believe we have at least one ability that actually covers this element of any player. Not what the heck? Not specifies this. You can force any player to reroll a die that player rerolls. Decrease the result of a die any player roll by a certain amount. Not properly phrased, but still. Given to any player that has the most specific. Given to any player that has the most wins. You can force any player to reroll a die that player rolls. Yeah, we actually don't have this element like as any player. Yeah, let's just set this one separately as a commonly used ability, because I believe this is something we have to add here. Let's just go to the end. Any player can activate the activated ability. Of the permanent. Oh snap, oh snap, oh snap. Okay, that was a weird. Okay, that was super crazy. Headache. Any player can activate an oh come on. An activated the wrong thing. Where we are. Any player can activate an activated ability of the permanent doesn't matter who owns it. It doesn't matter who owns it. This could be my permanent or whatever. Meta, I believe this is. Any player can activate an ability of the permanent, doesn't matter who owns this permanent. This is quite important. Let's think what else important is. What else here is important? Okay, cool. It's uploaded. Let's just close it. Any player can activate an activated ability of the permanent. Doesn't matter who owns it. This is the first thing. The second thing is card target permanent triggered ability. So it's not the same again. Triggered ability is something that is triggered by something. Either this trigger happens every upkeep, such as in this example, or it's triggered by a certain action. Whenever you play a card, whenever you play a spell, whenever you play a creature, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, so whatever. Target permanent's triggered ability. Target permanent's high range diffuser. Мы вернулись к изучению Magic теперь. Ха-ха-ха. Потому что я так подумал, если меня все равно никто не будет смотреть на ютубе, это отличный способ вернуть эти стримы, потому что это основная причина, по которой я решил стадить Magic. Чтобы стримить Magic таким образом. Но когда я убрал его... С Твича я его убрал именно потому, что как раз-то из-за того, что никто его не смотрел. А здесь так как так никто смотреть не будет. Почему бы не поизучать, как говорится. Можешь рассказать пока что, как делишки, если интересно. Я сегодня, кстати, в Magic даже не помню, я играл или нет. По-моему, я сегодня взял 5 побед. Нет, да, 5 побед я взял. Да, в общем, не суть. So, yeah, target permanence triggered ability can be... No, affects every player. Ага. 3 Андрейки и серый. Угу. Это я, это Аватар Барри нам тоже помогает. И кто еще нам помогает? Ну, еще нам с просмотрами помогает отдельный AleksHost. Ну, это короче, как и на Твиче. Так что в итоге только серый. Сорвал черно-красно-зеленую. Какая вторая выпала? Кул. Грац. Черно-красно-зеленую деку. Черно-красная. Подожди, черно-красная это что? Это парагдосы, да? Ты же вроде говорил, что у тебя там рагдосы довольно хорошие. Но их надо балансировать хорошо. Рагдосы тяжело вытягивают, они должны быть агрессивными, а если они недостаточно агрессивные у тебя, то да, они будут... в общем, писолю кунцать. Неприятно. Ну, как говорится, главное собирать деку по фану. Вот. Понимаю, что клево, чтобы она и выигрывала, но, как говорится, да. Ты спать направляешься или еще нет? Так, target permanence triggered ability affects every player. Yeah, we're going to keep that one. It kind of works. Черно-красно-зеленую. Я цвет не прочитал. Зеленую деку. Ну, 3 цвета, блин, что ты хочешь? Это тяжело, да. Говорю, попробуй почаще. Я тебе говорю, я тебе советовал как раз поиграть побольше с 3 цветами. Это реально очень интересно. Но нужно... Там хороший манафикс нужен. И нужно... А какой у тебя доминантный цвет, кстати? Или у тебя они по процентному соотношению разнесены довольно разумно? То есть у тебя какой-то цвет не является сплэшем, а чисто как все 3 основные? Ну, куль. Я тоже долго стримить не буду, я буквально... Так, у меня что-то стрим провалился. Я буквально, мол, полчасика, может быть, максимум тоже часик постримлю еще. Все будет зависеть от того, как продвигаться будет обучалка. Вот. Я не особо хочу сейчас игровые стримы большими делать, буду стараться их 1,5 часа делать, вот так вот. Минимум час и максимум 2 часа. Я буду чередовать эти стримы, вот, например, до конца месяца я сейчас буду стримить вот эти стадики, потому что я 2 недели до этого стримил этот MTG, ну, Magic, играл Magic. Вот. Но со следующего месяца я буду их чередовать, типа как неделю я буду играть, а 2-ю неделю я буду стадиками вот такими заниматься, потом опять неделю играть, неделю стадиками. Единственная проблема то, что я не могу делать вот эти стримы русскими, да, вот MTG Study, потому что тут все карты на английском и все механики на английском, поэтому... Сами стримы будут открыты для русского, да, там можно поболтать, потрендеть на какие-то темы. Но само обучение в любом случае будет проходить на английском. Как говорится, ничего не поделаешь. Всего понемногу. Но вот это как раз проблема, то что тебе нужно определить какой-то, наверное, доминантный цвет. И сделать так, чтобы... Просто это единственный способ хороший манафикс сделать, по моему опыту, играть большими цветами. Это определить какой-то доминантный цвет. Вот у меня, например, 5-цветная дека. И причина, по которой она довольно хорошо играет, потому что там 2 доминантных цвета есть, а остальные в таком небольшом процентном соотношении. И таким образом это позволяет всегда иметь нужные цвета. Вот. Или же придется реально добавлять очень хороший манафикс, пихать дофигища артефактов, которые все цвета дают, очень много лендов, которые дают любые цвета и так далее. И убыстрять как-то игру с существами, которые дают ману. Не знаю. Ну, тут реально тяжело будет. Все зависит от того, какие туда карты запихнул и на чем ты механики реализовал. Пиу. Но в целом, как говорится, да, это не легкая задачка сделать хорошо работающую трехцветную колоду, особенно когда там реально сборная солянка получается. Это нелегко. Там реально нужно в основном манафиксить. Опять же, зависит от типа колоды тоже. Как-нибудь ее покажешь. Там не с маной проблема, в том, что она тяжелая. Не ударили. Перебирать. Но если тяжелая, ну, зеленым цветом тогда убыстривай ее, как говорится, это добавление. Зеленый цвет как раз. Используй это преимущество зеленого цвета и да, напихай туда существ, которые ману дают. Там же дофигища симиковских, которые дают ману, и они чисто зеленые. То, что у тебя черно-красно-зеленые. Черно-зеленых там нет с маной. Красно-зеленых с маной. Красные есть существа, которые ману дают. Посмотри элементалев клевых и гоблинов, которых можно за пожертвование ману дать. Они хорошо бустят маной. Ну а у зеленых это, соответственно, эти лунаварские эльфы и другие эльфы, которые дают ману. Можешь и симиковских взять, чтобы так сбить оппонента немножко с толка. Они некоторые зеленые дают. Но в таких ситуациях иногда проще расширить ее до 4 и более цветов, сделать какие-то цвета такими обманными, для того, чтобы они ману давали. Но, говорю, люблю собирать такие деки, это довольно интересно. So yeah, any player can activate an activated ability of the permanent, doesn't matter who owns it, covered. Target permanence triggered ability affects every player, covered. So the whole idea right here was to basically choose that whatever target permanence triggered, whenever target permanence ability is going to be triggered, we need to establish that it's going to affect every player, such as right here. So again, Armageddon Clock deals damage equal to the number of Doom counters to each player. So again, this is the triggered ability of Armageddon Clock, and it basically triggers regardless to each player. Да, абсолютно тяжело. Да, тяжеловато. Но со временем привыкнешь делать. Я сам еще не совсем хорошо умею собирать такого рода деки, я вообще все собираю на интуиции. Вот, поэтому, как говорится, если интуитивно кажется, что все должно работать, то, как говорится, я собираю. Я обычно такой супер глубокий анализ туда не пихаю. Люблю вот эту свободу в создании небольшую. Да потом уже, когда играю, смотрю, что лучше, что хуже, и постепенно добавляю. Поэтому просто поиграй ей больше, и со временем дека начнет тебе говорить, что там работает, что там не работает. По сути, это логика, как говорится. Yeah, removing counters we already talked about. Any player may activate this ability. Yeah, so this is basically this. Any player can activate an ability. An activated ability of permanent, doesn't matter who owns it. And target permanence triggered ability affects every player. Covered. Let's just continue. Let's just save. We didn't save right from the beginning. So counter target artifact spell. Again, we already covered counter spells in general, and this is just to specify what type of spell it's going to counter. In this particular instance, this is an artifact, which is, again, could be anything. It could be a creature, it could be a non-artifact spells, which means that everything except artifact, and etc. Already covered it, or not. Let's just see. Counter target. Just find it, find and replace, paste. Look at all cards in the player's hand. If the named card is in the player's hand's counter target spell. Counter target spell, so here it is. Counter target spell. You have the ability to cancel spell the opponent is playing or you playing. Counter target spell unless opponent will pay certain cost for it. Yeah, let's just add this as a specification. That target can be anything. Like target can be any type or a specific type. Again, could be anything. Can be any type of card. General or specific. General and specific. So yeah, can be any type of card, general or specific. So again, we could target a, by general and specific, what I mean is the general, it's usually a big type of card. So for instance, like a creature card. So creature card for us is a general card, and spell card, other types of spell cards are another general cards. But a specific type of card, it's more like a artifact only, or auras only, or instance only, or sorceries only, or a specific creature type only, like for instance counter a target, I don't know, beast, or target rat, or whatever. So it's just basically specifies as the type of card that we're going to work with. Okay, good, next. So enchant artifact. We already talked about that you can enchant a certain permanence. We already established that it could be artifact, it could be creature, it could be land. So we're not going to cover that. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped or a player activates an ability of enchanted artifact without tap. And it's okay, this is interesting. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped or player activates an ability of enchanted artifact without tap in its activation cost, artifact possession, which is this card, deals 2 damage to that artifact's controller. Okay. This is definitely a nomination for a unique ability. This is something interesting. Definitely see potential in it. So this is, again, I guess this is our first ability that actually going to be outside of the regular ones. Pretty cool. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped or a player activates an ability of enchanted artifact without tap in its activation cost, this one deals 2 damage to that artifact's controller. Yeah, it's actually quite confusing. I mean, I understand how it works in this particular instance because it kind of talks about 2 instances. One instance, if enchanted artifacts that you enchanted become tapped or player activates an ability of enchanted artifact without tap and its activation cost. So it's kind of 2 conditions. It has 2 conditions. This one deals 2 damage to artifacts control. Ideally, nothing special about this ability. Truly nothing special. Kind of deals, works around the tap, but it's still, I still see a lot of potential in it. And because of this, we're probably not going to break it down, and we're not going to generalize it because it's actually quite generalized. I mean, whenever enchanted artifact, let's just enchant artifact. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped or player activates an ability of enchanted artifact without tapping its mana cost, this card, this enchantment, deals deals 2 damage to artifact's controller. So let's just keep it for now in this way, in this kind of way. Whenever enchanted artifact becomes tapped to or yeah, it definitely has potential, but I don't want to dive too much into this ability. I mean, ideally it works pretty simple. I mean, you enchant a creature, or you enchant a certain card, and then whenever this card becomes tapped, or whatever player that taps this card, not necessarily the artifact, whatever player taps this card without it tapping its activation cost, this card deals certain, like, does something to that card's controller. So we can actually replace artifacts with the card and permanents or whatever, but let's just keep its original state because it might actually make more sense if it's going to be an artifact. And let's just add a specification that it could be can be any type of permanent. Yeah, my voice is getting tired slowly, so I don't believe that we're going to stream a full 2 hours. I guess like in about 10 minutes we're going to probably finish. I need to slowly enter this studying mode, not just diving into it fully, so we'll go through a couple of more cards and we'll finish. So enchant creature again. So now this thing is enchants creatures. Enchanted creature can't be blocked by artifact creatures. So again, we talked about the inability of block by a specific type of cards. Prevent all combat damage, all damage that would be dealt to enchanted creature by artifact sources. Again, already covered it. Right, like at the beginning. An enchanted creature can't be the target of spells from artifacts. Target of abilities from artifact sources. So I don't believe that we actually covered something similar. This ability actually works more like a hexproof or shroud. Because shroud, but this is a little bit more specified. Let's just add this one. Target creature can be a target of abilities from a single sources or something like this. Let's just add this right here. It's not necessarily a common ability that Magic has, although I will probably put it as a common ability. What was that? So this creature can't be the target of abilities or spells from a specific source. From specific sources. It's not necessarily a vast explanation, and it's probably not going to fit here. It's probably better it's going to fit in frequently used abilities, because yeah, it's actually quite common. This creature can be the target of spells first / abilities coming from a specific sources. And let's just specify what a specific source means. So specific source could be an artifact. Artifacts. Instances or sorceries. Instances or sorceries, specific sources, artifacts, instances, or sorceries. This creature can't be the target of spells, abilities from a specific sources. Specific sources could be artifacts, instances, or sorceries, creatures. it's more like works with abilities. When it comes down to the artifacts and creatures, it works with abilities. And when it comes down to the spells, it's sorceries and instances. Of course, we could enchantment. I could put enchantment right here, but it's highly unlikely though. So again, just doesn't allow a certain spell or ability to target this certain creature. That's it. So nothing complex. Relatively easy. Good. And last couple of cards before we'll end the session, because again, like for a lot of months I didn't do this, and like diving right away into it, it's awesome, but it kind of seems a little bit overwhelming. And in order to not kill my brain right away, I want to slowly get into it, especially considering the fact that we have like 4 sessions in a row to work with. So, or maybe not 4. We'll see. It all depends. No, actually, probably 4. I don't know. I need to think about rescheduling things, because at some point, this is something that I completely forgot about though. At some point, these sessions will overpower the English sessions, because they're going to be 2 times a week, and English sessions are going to be only once a week. And at some point, MTG Sets studies will overpower the actual set studies, or the actual studies, when we're going to play Magic. And this is kind of a problem. I need to think about something. So we might not utilize the same schedule as I thought so. So maybe this week we're going to stream like 32nd episode, 132, 133 episodes, numbers. Then next week we might bring back MTG Arena. Then there's going to be the Russian one. Then again, 2 sessions of MTG Study, MTG Set Studies, which will again overpower it by 1, because there's going to be 2 of them. There's going to be another one. Yeah, I don't believe that we're going to actually study it 2 months, like 2 weeks in a row. Kind of misjudged it a bit. I completely forgot that there's going to be only 2. And if I'm going to make 4 of them, that means that we're going to end up with episode 136 or even 7, when in reality the actual MTG Study episode is going to be 3 less, which doesn't seem right. So yeah, I guess actually starting from next week we're going to do MTG Study back, not from here. Cool. We'll see. Still need to think about that one. But this week we're definitely going to stream MTG Set Studies. And next week I will see like what logic is going to tell me. But there's a good chance that we're actually going to go with MTG Study. Bring back the Magic play next week, then the week after MTG Set Studies, and then basically go the same way. Okay, you may sacrifice a creature and add 2 mana. Again, talked about it, paying a certain cost in order to add certain amount of mana. Clear, nothing super complex here. You may choose not to untap this one during your untap step. I believe we kind of covered something similar. And target creature you control gets +2, -2 for as long as this one remains tapped. Let's just make this card a last card that we're going to work. Not today, but like, let's just keep it for next session. So let's just establish that this is the last card that we stopped. It's also going to be the next one that we're going to work with. So starting from Friday, we're going to continue from this card, because it has quite like interesting thing, which may take some time. You may choose, again, every time that you have a choice to do something or not to do something, it kind of overcomplicates things. And we had a lot of those things in Unglued, and Unsets, But now we need to find a way to adapt it to a general, commonly used abilities. And this is not something that Magic commonly uses. So this is something we're going to think of Friday. So yeah, I guess let's just slowly end the session for today. Again, the last thing that I'm going to talk about is I need to think about the schedule right now, truly, because like having 2 weeks in a row MTG set studies not necessarily seems like a good idea, although we studied 2 weeks in a row right here. We'll see basically how it's going to work. Maybe there's going to be a completely weird number of sessions. Like for instance, we could stream 2 weeks in a row MTG Study, as we did right here. We studied from January 29th. We started a new season, 6th season. We studied it for 2 weeks, and then we studied 2 weeks, 1 week of MTG Sets study. And maybe then next 2 weeks are going to be again MTG Study regular, when we're going to play Magic Arena, and then 5th and 8th of March we're going to bring back MTG Set Studies. The reason for that is because I promised that MTG Set Studies are going to be close in numbers to the sessions that we are studying for MTG Study. So if I'm going to study, if I'm going to air a 130-second session in MTG Study, that means that MTG Set Study is going to have the same number, and they kind of have to be close to each other. I don't want for them to go too far from each other, and because of this there is a good chance that we're actually going to do this. So 2 weeks we're going to play MTG Arena in English and in Russian, because 2 days in English, 2 days in Russian, and then there's going to be a week of MTG Set Study, which will cover those 2 English sessions that we covered before, 2 weeks in a row. And that way I believe it's actually going to be the actual schedule. So yeah, I will change the schedule again, sorry for that, I'm just adapting. I'm trying to find the best schedule for this to work. Ideally I would want to change like week by week, but I don't believe that it's going to work because we have not enough MTG study sessions, and our MTG set study sessions will just basically overpower our regular season sessions, which is not supposed to happen. They have to go in unison. And since I can't extend English sessions in quantity, they have to be only 1 per week and only 2 per week's MTG set studies. That means that we have to kind of replace. So yeah, so this is the way that we're going to probably work. So this week we're studying MTG Set Studies. Next week from 19th we're bringing back MTG Study, studying it for 2 weeks. Then going back to study MTG Set Studies. Yep, this is the way that we're going to probably do this. It's going to be much slower than I would want to, but that way we're not going to take that big of a breaks for MTG Study. We still continue to play Magic on a constant basis. It's just going to take 1 week off and replace them with MTG Set Studies. So 2 weeks of playing Magic, 1 week of studying Magic, 2 weeks of playing Magic, 1 week of studying Magic. And later I might change something, but for now let's just keep this idea open. Thank you for watching. On that note, I guess we're going to end the session. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here. Have a nice day or night, and see you in the next session, which is again going to be this Friday. Look at since YouTube doesn't have panels, the only place for information is main page. I will update the information about upcoming events, and this is the place to basically know when exactly we're going to stream certain streams. So yeah, thank you, Buddy says bye, and see you in the next session.